Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. Welcome to the Chi Amazing Show. I'm Chi Amazing here bringing you some gaming news and stuff. And we're going to talk a lot about next gen today, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Before we talk about next gen, let's cover some other stuff real quick. First off, being that if you pre-order Gears of War Judgement at Walmart, you will not only get Gears of War, but you will also get Gears of War 2 or 3. So definitely check that one out if you don't have Gears of War 2 or 3 and are interested in picking it up along with Judgement. Steam is going to start doing weekly sales in addition to its daily, midweek, and weekend sales, so there's even more discounted goodness going on there. Go check that out. They have one going on right now. Speaking of discounts, Sleeping Dogs is right now $29.99 on Amazon for both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, so if you don't have that and were interested in picking it up, now is a pretty good time. There's an 11-minute Tomb Raider walkthrough with dev commentary. I'll post a link to that. You guys can check that out. It's pretty interesting. Slender the Arrival pre-orders are now available. The game will launch March 26th. Right now, if you pre-order, you can get the game for $5 instead of the normal $10 price. And you can pay pretty much whatever you want to above that to get all kinds of extra bonuses. USAopoly is set to bring a bunch of themed board games. These are classic games with new themes such as Monopoly Skylanders Edition, Risk Mass Effect Galaxy at War Edition, Risk Plants vs. Zombies Edition, Trivial Pursuit WoW Edition, Zynga Space Invaders Collector's Edition, Yahtzee Pac-Man Collector's Edition, as well as Clue Dungeons & Dragons Edition. Risk Mass Effect Edition tops the chart price-wise at $50, with Trivial Pursuit WoW and Yahtzee Pac-Man Edition being the cheapest at $25. You can expect Clue Dungeons & Dragons to hit this spring, Monopoly Skylanders, Yahtzee Pac-Man, and Jenga Space Invaders to hit this summer, with both the Mass Effect Risk and the Plants vs. Zombies Risk, plus the Trivial Pursuit WoW to hit this fall. It's Monday, so we're going to talk about our Kickstarter of the week, and that is going to be Fuzzy Slaughter. Fuzzy Slaughter is being developed by Crytek. You may have heard of them, maybe not. They have done work on some of the Borderlands 2 DLC, and they are seeking $50,000 for this game. It is a 3D beat 'em up with animals slaughtering other animals. It's an interesting concept. It looks pretty cool, and it's cutesy carnage, so definitely check that one out and donate to that one. It looks pretty fun. Now let's talk about next gen. We got some new Durango / Xbox 720 / next Xbox information, as well as Eurogamer put together a nice comparison of the new Xbox and PlayStation 4, so you guys can check out. I'll have a link to that and I'll cover some points from it. Now, as far as specific information dealing with the new Xbox, we're looking at a console that will ship with the new version of Kinect, which we already figured, but will rely on the Kinect being connected, meaning if your Kinect's not plugged in, your console will not work. Games apparently will be installed onto the hard drive. You put the game in, it'll install the game. Apparently have auto installation, and also games will be set up in sections so you can actually still be playing the game while the game installs in the background, which is a nice feature, so you don't have to sit there and wait. Not a lot of information about the controller, except for it will be using a new wireless technology that Microsoft has done. And that's about all I have there. And apparently you'll be able to run more than one game / app at a time, as opposed to now, like if you try to run like a Twitter app or something, you kind of have to exit a game. The final specs of the kit look pretty much what we expected. An AMD 8-core based 1.6 gigahertz processor, 8 gigs of RAM, built-in Wi-Fi. Going to be very similar to the PlayStation 4. They're both going to be using similar hardware. We know this. We've actually been known this. They're both using 8-core AMD-based processors that are set at 1.6 gigahertz. And also will be having very similar GPUs, which is a first that we actually are having two different consoles with very similar architecture, which also tends to be pretty similar to PC architecture. This will definitely make porting games and developing games on all the platforms a lot easier. Even though they have very similar architecture, there are a few differences, and I guess what Sony and Microsoft have both envisioned for consoles going forward. Microsoft seems to have taken a very RAM-focused approach, whereas Sony seems to have taken a more graphics-oriented approach. What I mean by that is the new Xbox is set to have 16 render output units and 12 compute units, whereas the new PlayStation is set to have 32 render output units and 18 compute units, though 4 of the compute units will be actually reserved for compute functions. And if that was a little techie for you, basically what it means is the PlayStation has invested more heavily into the graphics capabilities. Graphics wise, it's a little bit better there. Now, both consoles will have dedicated hardware decoders and encoders, so you should be able to record and share footage, like gameplay footage, on both consoles. They both have custom audio controllers. Now, the Durango has data move engines, and that seems to be another big difference between the two, is how data is moved around the consoles. Now, without getting too much into technical details of all that, the new Xbox is set up to take advantage of a more complex and slightly slower RAM setup. There's also a lot of custom hardware on the new Xbox's chips to deal with easing CPU burden as opposed to boosting the graphics capabilities. On the subject of RAM, tied to what we just said, the new Xbox is still rumored again to have 8 gigabytes of RAM, while the PlayStation 4 is rumored to have only 4. Now, there's a little bit more technical aspects to that, instead of just 8 versus 4. One being that the 8 gigabytes in the new Xbox is DDR3 RAM, such as you would find in your computer, and the 4 gigabytes in the PlayStation 4 is GDDR5, which is what graphics cards and such use. GDDR5 is much faster RAM, which goes along with rumors we've heard before that Sony is shipping with less RAM but much faster RAM. To help compensate with the slower RAM, Microsoft has included 32 megabyte ESRAM, so that kind of helps there, and it just kind of highlights some of the differences between the two consoles there. Again, Microsoft going more RAM, 500 gig hard drive, that kind of stuff, versus Sony's focus on slightly better performing GPU and less but faster RAM. Now, a lot of people are analyzing this to mean that Sony is a little bit more focused on specifically games that will take advantage of the faster RAM and the better GPU, whereas Microsoft is focused a little bit more on being more of a media machine, which will take advantage of the higher amount of RAM, the hardware to ease CPU burden, and the bigger hard drive. And that makes sense from what we've been hearing and rumors we've been hearing, especially with some of the overhead this new OS that the 720 is supposed to have. It will need more of the RAM. So as it stands, according to rumors, it seems that PlayStation 4 will be better than the 720 by about this much. Ultimately, it really isn't going to matter, as they are both using very similar architecture, and any performance gain, from what I can tell, between the two of them is going to be marginal. So right now, without knowing hardcore information about both setups, I would have to get a slight nod to the PlayStation 4, but not enough to go, don't buy a 720 or you have to buy a PlayStation 4. I think games on both of them are going to look really, really, really good, especially considering it'll be much easier to port between both platforms now. So yeah, that's all we have on Next Gen right now. In fact, that's all we have for today. You guys can check out past news videos by clicking links over here. You can check over here to watch myself and Chrono play Super Mario World. There should be new episodes going up tomorrow. Also, you can click down here to hit the like button, which is appreciated, and to subscribe, which also is appreciated. And let us know in the comments what you think about the show, and also what you think about the PlayStation 4 versus the 720. That should be an interesting read. And I will see you guys on Wednesday.